Devlin, Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
iOS, it's only sport. That's the name of our radio show. That's the name of this podcast as well. 1 till 4 on the platform every afternoon throughout the week, and then converted into a highlights package for you every night. Martin Devlin, Lachlan Moore. So much sport going on. So much of it well worth celebrating. Rugby. Fiji lighting the litmus paper at the Rugby World Cup. Beaten Oz this morning. We cover that with more angles than Pythagoras. The Wars won, and what a performance. Plus, the crowd at Mount Smart is excellent as the on-field effort. Was that the best in-game atmos at a New Zealand sports game ever? Ryan Fox capturing the biggest crown of his career. Liam Lawson earning his first F1 points. And a big moan Monday about my football team who just suck. Let's kick it. Tablets in hand, I say gather my flock. It is time for a sermon, and we're talking about what we've learned from both the All Blacks and the Warriors over the weekend. Let us go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
So what did we learn about the All Blacks and the Warriors over the weekend? The Warriors plenty, the All Blacks nothing. Nothing. It was Namibia. What else needs to be said? We beat them by 20 more points than Italy did. They were about as good as an average NPC side, playing the All Blacks. Amateurs versus professionals. Whatever you think you saw, whatever improvements, whatever combinations, whatever cohesion, it was Namibia. An 80-minute training run. That means nothing other than we had to play it and had to win it, because it's that plus Italy plus Uruguay, which gets us into the quarterfinals, and that's only when we find out again whether or not we're the side that won the first 4 tests of the year or the one that was spanked by South Africa and towelled by the French. As for the Warriors, we learned they are contenders, not pretenders, contenders, a top 4 side legit. And if you didn't believe it before the Newcastle game, then that result should be all the evidence you need, because that was a beatdown, a 40-point shellacking. The Knights were blasted off Mount Smart from the first whistle, beaten and beaten up. A thoroughly dominating Warriors performance, easily the best of the season. And I say that because it was a win against a quality side when it mattered most. Those are the 2 things that count, the only 2 things that count. Who's the opponent / what are the circumstances / how important is the match? 3 things then. And 3 boxes the Warriors triumphantly ticked Saturday night at Mount Smart. That's what's called a statement win, 40-10. A good mate who isn't a Warriors fan texted me afterwards to say, and I quote, "They were very good tonight, loved that performance, and the start, well, it doesn't get much better. Brisbane next week, ? On that effort, got to give them a real chance." The Warriors are legit top 4, deserving of being 1 game away from the grand final, a real threat. As for the All Blacks, we beat Namibia. That means we don't know yet. But thinking the team is back and now able to win that quarterfinal after beating Namibia, well, that for me is just still way too much of a stretch.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The Platform.
We're going to kick the show off with Christy Doran out of France. We spoke to him just hours after the Fijians won that game. Peter FitzSimons, the old mate, we're going to give him the big buller as well. We spoke to him minutes afterwards. And the first hour will be wrapped up by Jamie Wall, the most trusted independent sports journalist in this country. Now, Jamie's one of the very few that was at Mount Smart for the All Blacks versus South Africa. Best performance from the ABs this year. And I want to compare that crowd to what he witnessed on Saturday night when he was there with the Warriors. That's our first hour of the show here at the platform.
All right, Rugby World Cup results overnight, very early this morning. South Africa, Romania, it was tied. Boy, this was a contest. The Springboks winning 76-0. No surprise there. Following that, though, Fiji, with a win for the ages, beating Australia 22-15. They were up 22-8 at one point. Their first win over Australia in 69 years, which is their first ever win over Australia. I think they were only established 69 years ago. So huge win for Fiji. Now, with their loss to Wales, but Australia winning their first game, you've essentially got this nice little logjam at the top of the table in Pool C. Australia take on Wales next. If Australia lose it, the World Cup's pretty much over. If they win it, well, then we've likely got 3 teams tied on 3 wins and a loss. Later on this morning, England against Japan. England winning 34-12. Bit of an ordinary game, but at the end of the day, England get a pretty comfortable victory. The All Blacks say they'll contest the judiciary hearing being faced by loosehead prop Ethan de Groot for his red card against Namibia, and they're confident they can get a result in their favour out of it. Head coach Ian Foster had this to say. He was adamant that post-game that the main intention of the collision was shoulder on shoulder, and assistant coach Scott McLeod backed that up in his stand-up yesterday. We're just having a good look at it, gathering our information and what we're seeing, and then just waiting to hear back from World Rugby around the process and when we do it. Well, the Warriors are into the NRL preliminary finals, one win away from the grand final, and as much as the two teams who are waiting in the preliminary finals, being the Penrith Panthers and the Brisbane Broncos, the two standout teams of 2023, one of Rugby League's greatest ever players believes the Warriors have a good chance. That being Andrew Johns, who had this to say on Channel 9 yesterday. Leading in, I thought whoever won that game over there yesterday, Brisbane would hammer them, whether it was the Knights or the Warriors. But I think the Warriors are a chance. They have to be absolutely at their best, but I think they've got a chance that can definitely... they can definitely win. I think the Warriors can beat them. Well, anyone has a chance on their day, don't they? Golf news, Ryan Fox overcame a 3-shot deficit and a triple bogey early in the final round with 6 birdies on the back 9, the last one from 6 feet on the 18th hole, for a 5-under 67 and 1-shot victory in the BMW PGA Championship. Good stuff for Ryan Fox. Good victory. Well done. Liam Lawson raced in Formula 1. I think this was his 3rd Grand Prix over there in Singapore. He qualified 10th and he finished 9th. So his first ever points finish in Formula 1. Liam Lawson, wonderful, wonderful achievement. Kiwi driving Formula 1 at the moment. 2 points he got out of that race. And Ferrari's Carlos Sainz took the checkered flag, and it means that Red Bull, it was the first race this year that team didn't win. Not only that, they didn't even get on the podium. Their highest finisher was Max Verstappen in 5th. He, of course, very comfortably still has the lead in the championship standings. Premier League, a couple of games on today. Bournemouth and Chelsea playing out a 0-0 draw, so Chelsea's horrid start to the season keeps going. Arsenal beating Everton 1-0 away. Looking at the table just very quickly, Man City on top, 5 wins from 5. Spurs, Liverpool, Arsenal are all tied on 13 points, 2 off Man City. They have 4 wins and a draw. Brighton 4 wins and a loss. That's the top 5. And Martin, can you just do me a favour? You guys are down in 13th. Well, how did that happen?
Man. Don't worry about that. It's not like I don't know about it. I've got a big Moan Monday coming all over this.
Devlin,
That is a disgusting act.
the platform.
Bula, Lord Peter FitzSimons, our favourite Aussie loudmouth, former Wallaby raconteur, Republican, and a man who is shell-shocked at the idea that history was created today en France while he was there.
G'day to you, Marty Devlin. What an extraordinary win for Fiji. Congratulations to them. Wow.
Well, you sound as though you were quite shocked still. Was it that much of a surprise?
Yes, because I think dot 3 carry 1 subtract 2. Fiji has not beaten Australia in 69 years. You know, you go back to 1954, we always knew, everybody knows that the Fijians, you know, brilliant sevens players and they're wonderful athletes and all the rest. But I did an interview with the Fijian coach 2 or 3 weeks ago, and, you know, 2 months ago, he took them to villages and they were sleeping on mattresses in the village storm shelter. It was that kind of a thing. You know, our blokes meant to be, you know, serious professionals, hot and cold running physios, you know, all resources imaginable. And what we saw with the Fijians was these wonderful players that were hurling the ball around, fearsomely charging, doing really skilled sort of stuff. And it's meant to be that they were ill-disciplined. Well, they weren't ill-disciplined. It was our blokes that were ill-disciplined. The Fijians played a superb game, and the Wallabies, I mean, twice right ahead of me, the Fijians put the ball up, and the ball landed with no Wallaby catching it. I mean, it just on one occasion, the first Fijian try, it landed between our 5'8" and I think our fullback, and nobody said, Mine! And got the ball. And it's just unimaginable. And then, so in the second half, you're thinking, okay, we're the serious, seasoned, pampered professionals. The Fijians are worthy, but, you know, like some serious professionalism will take over here, and surely we'll have some methods that the Fijians don't know about. You know, we've got the world's greatest coach, most successful. We've got guys from, you know, playing serious professional competitions. We'll know how to win. Instead, what we saw, 10, the Wallabies charging the ball forward, and the ball didn't come out our side. We were penalised for holding onto the ball or whatever. I don't have the numbers, but we must have been penalised 6 or 7 times in the first half, in the second half, for not releasing the ball. And then we just kept kicking it downfield, and with a minute to go, Marty, a minute to go, the Fijians are 7 points ahead. We've got one hope. We've got to hold on to the pill. We've got to charge it up, and if you don't turn over the ball and you keep going, we'll win. What do? We kicked it downfield. The Fijians got it. End of the game. I mean, I'm not a technical boffin. I don't understand the ins and outs of rugby, but to see that loss, you don't have to be, an analytical genius. You can just see, well, I can see that the ball bounced without us catching us. I can see that we kept getting penalised for not releasing the ball. I can see that we were kicking aimlessly. I can see the Fijians played the game of their lives with a fantastic spirit. And with 10 minutes to go in the first half, the Fijians were ahead by 4 points. They had a chance to take a penalty, an easily kickable penalty goal. I said, nah, bugger that. We want to try. We don't just want to beat these guys. We want to crush them. And they did. And good luck to them, and well done, Fiji.
11 penalties at the breakdown, officially 18 in all, so you're conceding one every 4 minutes. You can't win any game in Test rugby at a World Cup like that. They were pragmatic, weren't they? And so, and that's a different attitude that we see from Fiji. Peter, can you still make the quarterfinals? This matchup against Wales has to be won.
Of course, and I think, if we can't beat Wales, give up. Just give up. Of course we'll beat Wales. We'll come out of the group stage, we'll beat Wales, and we'll come out of the group stage. And the only thing, there's only one thing that gives us solace right now. At least the Wallabies weren't in the opening match against France with the entire world watching and got completely thumped by them like happened to the All Blacks. That's the one bit of solace we've got, Marty. Is that fair?
I just think there's a whole lot of straws floating by and you're desperately trying to clutch one of them, aren't you? There you go. Oh, I almost got one.
Well, things are grim when the Wallabies and the All Blacks in a World Cup are both struggling. Do you agree with that?
Moan. I'm moaning sick all the time. Oh yeah. I got to moan on it, right? I am gutted. I'm not just sick on it. I'm sick of it. What a lot of pony. Utter bollocks, rubbish, bunch of trash that deserves to be thrown out with it. I'm talking my football team. Man United, 12,000 miles away. Supported them for what, 47, 48 years now? And no, we haven't always been good. During that time, we had a brilliant 2-decade period under Sir Alex. But now, most of the time, we are mostly average. Until this latest lot on the weekend dug new depths. Pathetic. I'm talking attitude and effort, pathetic. And that's why they deserve to cop it big time. From the crowd, from all fans. You're not United players. Most of you are nothing but a bunch of posers and pretenders living off past glories earned by guys that you have as much connection to as I have. Bunch of fakers, bunch of Instagram pullers. No effort, no commitment, earning way too much money for what? For turning up pretending? Done nothing, won nothing, bunch of pussies. And you deserve today, tomorrow, next day, next week to be constantly reminded of it. I'm gutted, I'm bitter, I'm twisted, I'm angry, I am sick. You think you're something just by wearing a United strip? Think again, dicks, because what you are starts with a shh and rhymes with kit.
Devlin,
I'm as tired as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
the platform.
The Warriors are legit. Top 4. No one can dispute that now. One game away from a grand final and a Brisbane side which must be looking over the shoulder after that performance against the Newcastle Knights. Brendan Bradford, CodeSports.au out of Oz with us. You've watched all year. It's been fascinating listening to your insights all year. And that game to me was the statement game. Were the team able to step up to a finals level? Now, I've been talking about this all show. Penrith showed us that when you get to this stage of the competition, you forget everything that's gone on. Everything is faster. The tackling is harder. You've got to make quicker decisions, all of that. Were the Warriors able to do it? Yes. And that's what impressed me the most.
Yeah, I was super impressed by the way, sort of after 15 minutes, I think the Knights had touched the ball twice and they'd knocked it on in the 2 sets that they'd have. And the Warriors had scored 3 tries. And it was, what was it? It was about 16-0. But you're sitting there thinking, going, all right, this can't last. The Knights will come back.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
almost in the second 20 minutes of the first half, it was almost the script was reversed, and the Warriors hardly got out of their own half, and it was the Knights putting on all the pressure, and to only concede one try after all that pressure, that gave me a bit of confidence. But then it was the way they finished it. In the last half an hour or so, yes, they ran in quite a few tries, but it was just pressure, just perfect kicks straight down to Greg Marzu every single time, just building pressure. It wasn't. And on the flip side, the Knights were trying to pull one out of the bag. Players trying to do it all themselves. Kalen Ponga probably tried to overplay his hand a little bit, not playing as they had been to get there. Whereas the Warriors, playing as a genuine finals side with a set, with a plan, with direction, with discipline as well. Like you say, it really was a statement game.
Against a quality side that hadn't lost 10 in a row. That's such an impressive record, and it's very rare for any team in the NRL to be able to do that. So these are no mugs either. It said to me, top four is legit. If you looked at that top four and think, there's one team there. Look, you're looking at the Melbournes, you're looking at Brisbane, you're looking at Penrith, quality teams that have won many premierships each. If you're looking at one team there, there's an odd boy out. No. That's a top four side.
Yeah, absolutely. These have been the top four sides of the comp, and once again we've got to the final four, and it is the top four. And we've been speaking the last couple of weeks that the most likely team, or probably the only likely team to disrupt that, would have been the Knights. But they put on a historically good run for them. I think it must have equaled their most wins in a row, or maybe it was one short. When you think of the genuinely really good teams, dynasties that they've had over the years, that's pretty impressive. But just on the Knights, it'll be interesting to see how they go next year. Whether this was, like a sort of a one-off finish, or whether there's something actually structurally sort of sound there, because it wasn't that long ago that Adam O'Brien was on the chopping block. Given a game or two, or got to win 2 out of 3 games to keep his job, and all of a sudden they're 2 weeks away from the grand final. So it'll be interesting to see how they go on to next year.
Looking ahead to Brisbane. So this Warriors team goes in now with, if it had been a struggle and arm wrestle against Newcastle, we'd probably be sitting here feeling different. But when you play like that, it says if you can turn up and play like that again, you got to be a chance. You have to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like I was saying before, just with the discipline and the maturity that they've played with, particularly in the second half against the Knights, and they've showed it at times this year as well. Just pure discipline, grinding teams out, and I still think there are some question marks over Brisbane. Yes, they're probably the best team to watch in the comp when it comes to knockout football, finals football. It's September, and you've got a team like, if the Warriors can produce similar to what they did last week, and if they can do it again. I don't know whether the Broncos have been really pushed like this at all. And when it comes down to knockout football, they put on a big score against the Storm week and a half ago, or just over a week ago, but they haven't really felt that pressure yet. And it's going to be interesting to see if they, how they sort of respond to that.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
We need to talk.
What about? We're in the bloody semi-final, 1 game away.
Next!
How important, Lachlan, that home crowd for that particular game?
No, very important. Absolutely. When you got a
Can we start calling it the 14th man? Like they do in Seattle, they're calling it the 12th man. Okay,
I think you can. Because when you got noise like that, you've got like the stamping of the feet and the drum beats, like the bass of that mixed in with the crowd noise is just incredible. You can't not, and it's intimidating. But Brad Fittler said it earlier in the year. It's a nasty part of town. Yeah. It's a cold, nasty part of town. It's not a good stadium.
There's nothing welcoming about it.
There's nothing welcoming. And mixed in with the noise and the tall task of beating a team who've been really good all year, there is a 14th man.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You're up against it.
Next!
Okay, confidence level from a Broncos perspective. Last week, before the Warriors played Newcastle, you were sitting there feeling how confident out of 10? Give me. It would have been upwards of 8s or 9s, right?
I was about a 9.7 after that win over the Storm, and it maintained that right up until this weekend. So if I'm giving it out of 10,
where are you now?
Oh, I'm an 8.
So you've dropped 1.7 percentage points?
Well, because I'm starting to. I mean, if I lived in Brisbane, I'd be 10. It's because I live in New Zealand, and I have a lot of friends who are Warriors fans, and I gave Warriors fans a little bit of stick on Twitter on Saturday and speak.
Oh, you got a couple of slaps back, didn't you?
They did back. They are Warriors fans are emotional.
Well, let's just keep the humour going because we're on house money now.
Yeah.
We're playing with house money.
Next!
I'll say it and you'll agree with it. That has been the most impressive performance of the final series so far by any team.
No.
Get out of here, Penrith.
No,
Goodbye, Brisbane Broncos.
No.
That against Newcastle raised the bar and set the standard.
No, I think Penrith's one of the Warriors was the most impressive. That was that was like England beating us at the World Cup in 2019. It was just
well, there was a smackdown
hard
on the weekend.
No, Newcastle had their moments, to be fair. They had some attacking opportunities. They reduced the score to 6 points. They were in that game, and then the Warriors ran away with it at the end. The Warriors have had a couple of games this year, by the way, where they have been locked in a battle with a team, and they've run away at the end. And that's what that game was. They played really well, brilliant performance.
Well, two things about that, mate. They've run away with games in the end, but they've also staunched up defence at the end of games as well.
Yeah, they have.
So that back-end fitness.
But that's it. They wear teams out because they're fitter.
Yeah.
Which is what...
This is Andrew Webster.
Yeah.
This is what Webster's done.
I can't remember the exact wording of it, but there was someone we spoke to pre-season. It might have been when you had your one-on-one with Chance Tuchel-Cookstad when you were wearing your cowboy hat at the Warriors first stand-up of the year.
Opening press
and he made a comment about how they'd done a lot more ball work than they needed to, or they'd done a lot of stuff around November that meant that they could focus on one thing at the start of the year. Right. I have a feeling it was that they were able to focus on their fitness a bit more at the start of the year.
Let's bring some of that audio back tomorrow, okay? Let's go and revisit the very first interviews we did at the start of the year with Sean, with Adam, with Chance. Here am I. I'm saying dropping first names, aren't I? And Andrew Webster.
Next!
One more before we go to the break. Sean Johnson. How impressed were you? Carrying a calf injury, being able to play that many minutes, the inspiration that he was. I thought they'd drag him at 55 or 60, but they kept him out there.
Yeah, he obviously didn't manoeuvre as well as he usually does. But I thought his ball playing was really impressive. And one thing about Sean Johnson is that he's always had this gorgeous silky pass on him. So he's great with the ball in hand, and it's been more so that I think his kicking games, that's what's led him down most of his career. But no, he was great. He was brilliant. He was the general on the field, leading them around, and did exactly what they needed him to do. But I think more of Sean Johnson's inclusion and the effect that it has on a team isn't so much the actual playmaking ability that he has on the field. I think it's something as simple as he's out there, he's the leader of the team, or one of the leaders, and the players around him get confidence of him just simply being out there as opposed to him actually doing something. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You give it an up the wahs? Is that the last week?
Yes!
You're going to give it an up the bras?
No.
Brendan Telfer is always our go-to guy when it comes to all things golf. And overnight, amongst all the other sport that's happening, the Rugby World Cup, the Warriors winning on the weekend, Liam Lawson going great guns in his F1. Ryan Fox won the BMW. Just an extraordinary last round effort.
It confirmed what a lot of people have felt about Foxy, that he's basically entitled now to mix it with the best in the world. But mixing with them is one thing, beating them is another. And the way he did it today was quite extraordinary because, as I said, I watched it all until the lightning came and the heavy rain, and they had a break for I don't know how long, so I went to bed and then got up at 6 o'clock this morning, watched the end of it. But he was basically toast after about 4 holes today when he hooked his tee shot in one of those early holes. It might have been the 4th from memory, and he finished with a triple bogey 7 on a par 4 hole. So he was 3 shots behind, but in front of him were 5 of the world's top 10 golfers. You know, you've got Rory McIlroy at 2 in the world rankings, Rahm 3, Hovland 4, Matt Fitzpatrick, and Tyrone, the Englishman who was Tyrell Hatton, who was leading the tournament at that stage there and had a 4-shot lead at one stage. But then Foxy just quietly went about his business into, if I can be able to paraphrase an old saying, famous old saying of Edmund Hillary's, one by one, Foxy knocked the bastards off.
Yeah,
He went
brilliant.
every one of them. McIlroy in the best form he's had this year. John Rahm, who staged a huge comeback on the back nine. Tyrrell Hatton, who had a 4-shot lead, and Matt Fitzpatrick, who was behind Foxy. And so he was, completely surrounded by many of the world's best golfers, and he was giving them 4 or 5 shots, and he beat them all. I mean, I haven't delved into history just yet because I've got to write a couple of golf columns today, and I will check this. But in my books, off the top of my head, that is the 4th best single performance ever by a New Zealand golfer, male golfer anyway, in a professional tournament. The only ones I can think of were better in the context of who else was in the field that they had to beat to win was Bob Charles, of course, winning the Open, the British Open in 1963. Michael Campbell winning the US Open in 2005, and Craig Perks winning the Players' Championship back in probably 15, 20 years ago, when it was then and it still is considered probably the 5th major, but it's not officially a major, as it were. After those, I can't think of another performance that matched what Foxy did today in the context of who he had to beat and where he was early in the round. Just extraordinary, and I haven't got any more words to describe how extraordinary that performance of his was, other than every putt that they showed of him from about the 4th hole on, from about 10 feet or thereabouts, he holed one after another. So it was his putting, and he was a slightly more conservative, I think, off the fairway, just a bit off the tee. Looking at his driving stats today, he was only the 60th longest off the tee today, which is really unusual for Foxy. But I think it was just a more conservative approach, which left him with more shots on the fairway, and that means he was able to get the ball on the green and within, birdie putting distance of the hole, and that's what he did.
Looking down the sister names, Rahm was 4th, Hovland, who won the FedEx Cup, and he won it in such style, Hovland. He's 5th. You got Fleetwood, you got McIlroy, you got Adam Scott. I could go down the list. Yeah, I mean, it's a champions field he's beaten here.
Well, it is. It's extraordinary. Every member of the European Ryder Cup team was in this tournament. Every one of them. I can't give you all 12 names, but the key players, the 4 key players in that team, McIlroy, Rahm, Hovland, and Fitzpatrick, and they were all there in the mix today going into that last round. And the 3 of them, of course, were vying for the lead and had genuine kind of belief that they could win it, including McIlroy, who came from way back with a 65 to get within 2 shots of the lead. But he couldn't birdie 17 and 18. It's a remarkable sort of back nine, this one it went with, which incidentally is one of the most famous golf courses in all of Europe. And Michael Campbell won the World Match Play Championship here many years ago. But they got 3 par 5s on the back nine, 3. And so when Rory started his charge on the front 9, that's what it was. Basically, I'd have to say not just Foxy, but McIlroy was keeping me up as well. Because when he's on fire, it's just Tiger Woods stuff that he produces, and this is what he was doing. But he couldn't birdie either the 17th or the 18th. He made par on both of them, and that left him short. But along came Foxy, took a very conservative approach on the 17th. The 17th, the hardest hole at this course, is 610 yards long, and almost impossible even in calm conditions to get there on the green and 2 because it's surrounded by bunkers. Foxy played a very smart kind of approach to this hole, just laid up with his second shot and played a wedge into the 3rd, missed his birdie putt from 25 feet, didn't matter. He still had a 1-shot lead at that stage, and then birdied the 18th, which is 100 yards shorter. So it was smart play from Foxy. He used his brain and his brawn and beat many of the best golfers in the world. Fantastic.
The Warriors at Mount Smart. How good was that atmosphere on Saturday night? Was that the best sporting crowd ever in New Zealand? I mean, you've got to rack it and stack it, don't you? The All Whites beating Bahrain and Wellington to go to the 2010 World Cup. The All Blacks winning the World Cup in 2011. The Black Ferns last year, I was at Eden Park, that was amazing. But there's something different about the Warriors. It's just, I don't know, an engagement, a fun. The crowd are as close to an English Premier League crowd as anything we've ever seen in this country. Jamie Wall, one of the very few people that was at Mount Smart for both the All Blacks versus South Africa and the Warriors versus Newcastle, just comparing the crowds on the night. It was in actual fact a bigger crowd that went to the All Blacks. That was our best performance of the year. And if the All Black fan base is going to go off, it's going to go at that game. So talk about that one to start with.
Yeah, true. That was a very good performance by the All Blacks, and the crowd did respond to that. And it did show, for all the talk of the Warriors grabbing the public's attention and everything, the All Blacks are still going to sell out every game they play. They are still sort of head and shoulders above every other sporting team in New Zealand in terms of their pulling power. It says a lot that they brought in, I think it was 10,000 extra seats for that Test match, and then took them away straight afterwards. So, there's a conversation to be had about that. But in terms of the way that it felt, I mean, it was very much an All Black Test. A lot of people just sat there just waiting for stuff to happen. It all did happen in the first 20 minutes, so people left happy. But in terms of crowd experiences, it was very much another game that I went to this year.
However, the Warriors, what is the difference then with the crowd?
I think, honestly, it's because they just have a wider range of people supporting them, and that the personification of being a Warriors fan is that you're willing to let yourself go a bit. You're spending money on one of the many jerseys that they've put out. You're bringing your kids, your families. You're talking to the people next to you, and you're really getting in behind the intricacies of the game. I think what summed up for me that game wasn't the sort of massive roars when the tries were scored, or the sort of ovation for Sean Johnson, because while those were awesome, you could see them coming. It was when it was sort of deep in the second half, when I think the Warriors were up by about 12 points, and they needed one big defensive set to kind of really set the tone for the way the last sort of 20 minutes was going to go. And the crowd actually rose to their feet and were cheering every single tackle in that set as they marched the Knights back and made them kick from inside their 30. And it just goes to show just how understandable rugby league is for people. For a lot of people, that this might have been their first season going to watch the Warriors, and by that stage of a season, full well that one big defensive set where you can pin a team in their own half is going to be the difference between winning and losing. And that to me showed just how into it the crowd really was.
Just the fun aspect of being, I know that you're working and it's different, and you have to observe it from a different perspective because you're not on the juice, and also you've got a job to do afterwards as well, and it changes your mindset when you are at these games working. I know it's, people think, it's a hell of a privilege getting there, you don't pay for your ticket, but you are there with the job to do, and you have got a commitment to that. So you can just look from, it's almost like a distance even though you're in amongst it.
I think we've got a really, really good view and perception of what a crowd's like from where we are, because we're literally sitting there, observing the whole thing. It's really easy to tell when a crowd's going to be what we call a hot crowd, going to be really, really into it and like the fans were on Saturday night, and a flat crowd, which is what you unfortunately usually get with All Blacks tests, because like I said, the fact that they win all the time means that you're just kind of sitting there waiting for stuff to happen. And so Saturday night was very much a hot crowd at the Warriors because, for all their success this year, you still kind of are rolling the dice a little bit with, how they're going to play. It might be a kind of a not so great Warriors performance. It might be a fantastic Warriors performance. And that first 20 minutes meant that it was fantastic. I mean, the crowd was really dialed in for the rest of that game.
The Type 5.
5 separate sporting topics, 60 seconds on each. And when the bell dings, we move as quickly as we can on to the next one. What did we learn from beating Namibia? That's going to be a quick one, isn't it? Ireland, 80 points. Romania, 59-16 over Tonga. What have we learned, if anything, about them? What do we know? In South Africa, 76 over Romania. What are these results telling us? South Africa, Ireland. Is that a preview of the final? Is Roygaard / McKenzie the future for the All Blacks? Are they going to be the new Smith / Mwanga, Smith / Evan Carter? I read this on one of the major news websites over the weekend. Ryan Fox wins. Liam Lawson gets 9th. And a one-day cricket World Cup warm-up between Sri Lanka and India, which deserves mention as well. I began the program, though, by asking what we learned from the Namibian game. This is going to be a short topic, Lachlan, because I don't believe that we learned anything. You said Roygaard, yes, he played well. I think he's moved into the second spot in terms of our number 9s. That's a clumsy way of saying he's the second best halfback in the country at the moment. Yeah. But other than that, And I don't want to heap on Ethan de Groot. I know that everyone else is questioning the tackle technique. Look, a guy doesn't go out there deliberately to do that. It's a terrible, clumsy challenge, and it's probably going to bloody cost us. But when you're playing an opponent that is such a subpar opponent in terms of their ability, their skill, in terms of the talent that they have, in terms of the preparation, in terms of the fact it's not the national game, in terms of all of these different things, we're the All Blacks, for God's sake. If we can't put 100 on that team, there's something wrong with us every day of the week.
Yes, but also those pool games are always a tricky one to measure because we will always play a B team, more or less, and the other team will get up for it and attack it with more intensity than us. So I can't ever imagine that we're ever going to put as much. I mean, if you put out our best team and they went hard out and did their best, we'd beat them 160-0 or something, probably. So, but at the same time, I don't know. But I'm the same as you. I mean, I watched it on Saturday. I got up at 7 a.m. with my duvet on the couch and just watched it and thought, you know what? I'm not learning anything.
No.
I'm not getting anything out of this. I would rather have slept in.
Fiji beat Australia. Who makes it out of that group?
I think Australia and Fiji.
I do too. I do, but there's going to be a couple of twists and turns for me. Yeah, it's not.
I mean, Wales only beat Portugal by 20 points the other day.
No, it's not going to be easy. And again, it all comes down to Fiji playing Portugal in the very final pool play match of this World Cup.
Yeah.
What are we meant to read in Ireland? They have put 139 points over two opponents. South Africa put 76 on Romania, who'd been smacked 80 by. What is all this telling us?
Nothing until they play each other.
The only piece of news over the weekend about South Africa, I thought that was relevant, was Malcolm Marx.
Out of the World Cup, yeah.
And that's good news for New Zealand if we get to play them, because every time that guy plays us, what does he do?
Oh, he just
destroys us.
He bends us over.
He does. He wins every single ruck that he enters, doesn't he?
And carries the ball for like 20 metres.
That's it. We have no counter to that guy at all. So I have empathy for the fact he's been injured, but I'm not sorry that they've lost him.
Yeah.
No, not at all. It's South Africa, Ireland. We might have about 7 topics in this tight 5. Yeah, do the math.
Tight 7.
South Africa versus Ireland this coming weekend. Major match. Is that a preview of the final? Because they can meet in the final.
Yeah, they can. Yeah. They absolutely can. They can avoid each other right up until the final. Yeah. Yes, but one of them will have to get by France.
Yeah, that's it.
And in the quarters.
Well, we presume so. Yeah, no, in the semis.
No, quarters.
Quarters, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, I keep forgetting that.
So one of them will lose the quarterfinal.
I keep forgetting. God, that's ridiculous, isn't it?
One of those two in France are going to lose the quarterfinal. One of those 3.
So one of those is going home.
Yeah. Or staying
the
home.
All Blacks. Isn't that ridiculous?
Well, the All Blacks.
Isn't that silly?
We know the All Blacks.
So we're talking about that Australia could get through, still wriggle through, and it.
Well, that's the thing. If Australia, I mean, they could sneak, like they could beat Wales like 11-10 and still manage to sneak through to the quarterfinals and then come up against Argentina or England and win.
They're on the semi-finals. Meanwhile, one of the 4 of France, us, Ireland, South Africa is on its way. Roygaard / McKenzie.
This annoyed you?
Well, it does annoy me because, look, I think Roygaard played a great game, but look, we saw Damien McKenzie pick to play first 5 against Australia in Dunedin. He's a bit like Jerome Luai to me. Just run straight for a second, mate. Stop the skippy bollocks side-to-side stuff. I need him to play a lot tighter before I would say, yes, he gives me confidence as an All Black first 5 going into next year.
Well, when it comes to him playing at a high level in a test match, you need to pretty much do 3 things really well. 1 is manage the game and direct the back line, which is more of an intangible thing. But 2, have an absurdly accurate and reliable kicking game and your passing game. So it's 3 things.
I'll add
it's
4.
like a triple threat.
You don't make mistakes.
Well, yes, you don't make
mistakes.
You've got to be the quarterback of the back line where you make the right. It's less so of attack. It's less of a Beauden Barrett or a Damien McKenzie style when you're attacking the line and whatnot. You can't do that, which is what he does.
I know.
Or he surveys and runs across and skips across the
back
line, as you say.
That's why I prefer a more conservative approach at first.
If you're talking about next year, then who else is there?
I don't know. Perifetta, maybe. I don't know.
Fergus Burke.
Ryan Fox wins. Telfer reckons it's one of the 4 best ever wins by a New Zealand golfer. We'll let him explain that. Yeah. Brendan knows. So
he is the golf guru, so...
But been messaging with Ryan and hopefully get him on in the next couple of days. His final round was just outstanding. I mean, to triple bogey the 3rd, I think it was, but not to make a mistake after that.
Yeah,
just
the power of the guy's mind. Was it?
He closed it out, mate. Yeah. And then to win it on the 18th without him playing. And the guys that are behind him, he's got the Ryder Cup team behind him. Okay, these are all the best players that Europe have picked for the Ryder Cup, and he knocks them all down. Brilliant. Liam Lawson, top 10. Again.
Incredible. Brendan Hartley, I'm pretty sure, didn't score any points in his season in 2018.
Didn't know. He had terrible luck. Terrible luck.
He got 1 point. So Liam Lawson's already bettered that. And I'm pretty sure Brendan Hartley was the first driver we had in Formula 1 since, what, the 70s? I could be wrong, but I think so. So, this achievement's incredible. It's going to be so hard for AlphaTauri to give him a permanent drive because of political stuff that we talked about with Japan and the Honda engine and Yuki Tsunoda. But 3 starts finishing 13th, 11th and 9th, is that it?
That's pretty damn good.
That's very good. That's incredible.
It's pretty damn good. 2 to go. One Day World Cup this morning. Sri Lanka batting first. They got 50. Sorry, I've got to rephrase that. No, they didn't bat 50 overs. They got 50.
Yeah.
India chased it down in?
6.1 overs. They got 51, didn't lose a wicket. Sri Lanka were bowled out in 15.2 overs.
Oh, it's just World Cup warm-ups. It's World Cup. Nobody's going to remember this if they make the semi-finals in India in October, right? Finally, the Warriors. I'm staring through the glass here at a Broncos fan who's like a dog doing raisins. He's shaking. He's nervous.
No,
Look at you. You're looking over your shoulder.
Wait.
You're looking sideways, mate. You don't know what jersey to put on. You don't know what seat. You don't know where to watch it.
I know where I'm watching it. I've got my plane sorted for Saturday. It's going to be me, big group of friends, me and one other guy, Broncos fans, and the other 10, 12 people are all Warriors fans. And it's going to be in my apartment. And what's going to be glorious is when we win the game. Every try scored, every penalty we get, I'm going to give it to all of the fans. And then when we win, I'm just going to stand there praising. I'll stand off my balcony.
Okay,
I'll
here we
throw
go.
cones off the balcony.
No, I've got an idea. Give a road cone to every departing Warriors fan.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Say, yeah, get rid of it.
Yeah. You got some things to work on.
Oh, nasty. LBP with TMG. Twizzles Matt Gunn always joins us to be positive on a Monday. And then his Wallabies lose to Fiji. Oh, I can't talk. My Man United lost, but at least my Redskins won. Matt, how do you glean anything good from that result?
If New Zealand rugby isn't fit for purpose, what do you reckon Australian rugby is? It's the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. It's the Otago Rugby Union. It's the Southern Steel. It may even have dropped as low as Manchester United. I'll tell you what.
Oh. See, that's unnecessary. You didn't need to throw that one in. We were having fun up until then.
Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't have thrown that one in. I'm calling for an inquiry, a review, and a lot of mirrors for Australian rugby players and administrators to take some time to look at. Come on. What happened? This is the World Cup, Martin.
Eddie Jones, hang on, I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you what happened, mate. Eddie Jones, you dominated, mate. You scored 2 tries to 1, mate.
Yeah, we also gave away 18 penalties, which in the end turned out to be the difference, didn't it?
It did.
Hey?
Yeah, he didn't mention that. And he didn't mention that 11 of them were at the breakdown, where you just constantly held the ball. The rule is, when you get to the ground as a tackler, you got to release the ball. It's pretty clear, isn't it?
We couldn't beat them, and so we tried to cheat our way to a victory over Fiji at the breakdown. I mean, can you even believe it? That's 6 from 7 we've lost under Eddie. I wonder what his salary is and how he looks at himself now. Look, every week he's told us we're getting better. Wait for it. We're on the way. We're almost there. Well, we were almost there, weren't we, today?
Last week when you beat Georgia, he turns up at a press conference. He's got his shirt unbuttoned to the navel. He's got a chain like, MC Hammer would wear, mate. He's got a collar wider than my old leisure suits, which I know you're very familiar with. And he swaggers in there saying, "Where's that Pommy guy? He's not here. You only turn up when we lose, mate." You went a bit early, Ed. It was only Georgia, pal. And now Fiji have put you in a position where you've got to beat Wales, mate. You've got to beat Wales.
Oh, and Wales did Fiji a bit of a job the other morning. So, I mean, honestly, I can't convince myself that we are going to beat Wales. I just think to myself, how are we going to get better? I mean, where are we going to get better? If we couldn't win the breakdown against Fiji, can we beat Wales?
No, the answer is no. Let's be positive about the Wars, because you sent me a text after that result on Saturday night, and I started the show by quoting you, mate. They were very good tonight. I love that one. The start doesn't get much better. Brisbane next week, got to give them a chance. Now, gave the Warriors zero chance prior to the Newcastle game. But what I loved about that is that you need to play your best football and you need to go up a notch at finals time. Now, we saw Penrith do that to the Warriors a couple of weeks ago, right? And I didn't know whether this team had it in them because they have had no finals experience at all. But they did go up a level. The intensity of that first 10 minutes, the defence, the sheer ferocity and pace of the game, that's finals football, Matt. That must give them confidence now going to Suncorp.
The ability to continue the role they started with was just quite incredible. I mean, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And then even when Newcastle sort of gathered themselves, because it was like a blitzkrieg at the start. I mean, no one knew what was going on. And then the Knights did get a bit of ball and they started to make some headway and get some momentum. They've had a good pack of forwards. The thing about the Knights over the 10 unbeaten weeks is that they've had an ability with a very good back line to open up other sides and score some good tries. And the Warriors came in with defence and they just shut it down. The Knights didn't look likely. And so what I have to say is if they can play anywhere near that level against the Broncos, they only need kind of a start like they had, and the Broncos will get rattled as well. I think the Broncos will be expecting to beat the Warriors. But I tell you what, doesn't this lift your spirits? I mean, I've had the worst NRL season ever, and it felt like I was watching another round of the NRL with that Australian loss to Fiji. But to see the Warriors come from where they have, to really be, you have to say, at their best, and with Sean Johnson, he didn't break the line like he did in previous games, but he dominated the game. They didn't know how to deal with him. And if he can play that well against Brisbane, you have to give them a chance. You have to.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.